Wall Street's record surge sparks a global investor comeback. The PM offers financial help for Indonesia's currency crisis. Anger erupts over Victoria's workers' compensation changes.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Whaley.
Good evening. Warnings that stock markets could tumble again have tempered today's dramatic turnaround in global share trading. A similar recovery after the '87 crash was soon followed by a fresh round of market losses. Today's recovery was kick-started on Wall Street and soon fueled buying sprees in most major trading centres, including Australia. Mark Barlin has our report.
After a day of savage falls, world markets were hoping for, but perhaps not expecting, a circuit breaker from Wall Street. It didn't come straight away. The Dow Jones dipping another 190 points before embarking on its biggest ever turnaround. The resurgence helped by gung-ho small investors and IBM wading in with an order for $3.5 billion worth of its own stock.
When they come out and say, hey, our stock's too cheap, that made everybody feel good.
As it started to turn around, you could kind of feel a collective sigh of relief.
The sigh became a roar as the market climbed a record 337 points, trading 1.2 billion shares, another all-time high.
When I see what I think the bargain, I will buy it.
Australia waited for that euphoric wave to roll across the Pacific, and it did.
$1.5 million to buy at $1. BHP back they come, 14.50 Hills.
In less than an hour, the market made up yesterday's losses. Bargain hunters confident things had reached rock bottom. Not everyone's so sure.
I cannot say to someone that it's all over. There is still real risk of further downside in the American market.
We've had an earthquake in the Asian financial region. We are part of Asia. And when you have a massive earthquake, you've got after damage.
The party did quieten late in the day, the All Ordinaries dropping back to close up 144 or 6.25%. Topping all that off, the exchange shut 15 minutes early as the system's capacity of 60,000 trades a day was passed.
What will happen in the days and weeks ahead is that the volatility will drain out of the market and it will settle down.
Still plenty of action in Asian markets though, as they sought to make up losses. Hong Kong rocketed back up 18.8%, while Tokyo closed 3.3 higher. Mark Barlin for Nightline.
European markets have been open for several hours and are following the upward trend. Paris and Germany both jumped around 5% on opening, while in London the FT 100 is up 106.1 points. That's a rise of around 2.5%. Stock markets might be somewhat steadier, but the Asian currency crisis remains of great concern to Australia, with exports at risk. Prime Minister Howard, on a brief stopover in Jakarta, has offered to back plans to bolster Indonesia's economy, saying it's in our own interests. Fleur Bitcon reports.
The Indonesian economy is one of many that's been rocked by the Asian currency crisis. Meeting President Suharto, Prime Minister Howard has offered Australia's support as part of the International Monetary Fund's economic rescue package for the country.
Look, what I wanted to do today was to send a very clear message to the Indonesian government that we stood ready to help.
Australia has already helped the Thai economy by way of a currency swap, but Mr Howard is still looking at options regarding assistance for Indonesia. The Prime Minister says the government's support is in Australia's interest.
And a strong, prosperous, economically powerful Indonesia is very important to Australia.
Mr Howard also held talks with Indonesia's Foreign Minister Ali Alatas,
in which, of course, we expressed Indonesia's sincere appreciation for this gesture of solidarity and support by Australia.
But back home there's trouble looming for the Prime Minister over native title, with 3 National Party MPs threatening to vote against the government's legislation. They want the law toughened to protect farmers. Mr Howard says their objections prove his 10-point plan is fair.
This is not the prejudiced, unfair, discriminatory, unreasonable legislation that it's been described as.
That's not the only domestic issue Mr Howard will tackle when he returns from his successful overseas trip. He also intends to announce drug law reforms in place of the failed heroin trial plans. In Jakarta, Fleur Bitcon for Nightline.
A general strike and rowdy protests in Melbourne today spelt out the anger at the Kennett government's cuts to work